Bob here from Hot Track RC. Today we're going to check out two of my favorite cars from the collection. The Team Car re-release and the 2013 Worlds Car re-release. These are two epic buggies, so if you want to check them out with me, then stick around. There's some interesting lineage between the Team Car and the Worlds Car. First of all, Brian took a Team Car and adapted it to become his 1993 IFMAR Worlds Car. And you might be saying, but wasn't his pan black? Yes, Team Cars had black pans, and for mysterious reasons that we don't fully understand, Team Associated re-released the Team Car with the gold pan, which aesthetically I love, but it's not right for the Team Car. So Brian adapts this car and adds all kinds of goodies and tweaks it and wins the IFMAR World Championship in 1993. Team Associated releases the kit in 1994 for the first time, loosely based on the car that Brian drove, but more for mass market, right? And then in 2014, 10 years later, Team Associated re-released the Worlds Car based on the original kit car, and they did upgrades to different things that we'll check out in a minute. So this Worlds Car from 2014 is about 4 times removed. Once going to Brian's Worlds Car, and then going to the kit, and then from the kit to the 2014 re-release. And then you've got the Team Car, which was re-released once, so that's once removed. So these cars are about 4 times removed, or fourth cousins. But I absolutely love the art on these cars, and both represent one version or another of the livery that was used at the time. I love the Team Car look. I think that body just pops. But the Worlds Car is super classic with paint drips and the angles, and Brian's paint scheme. I think it's a little bit more subdued just because of the color combination, but absolutely love both, and it's got the pop of pink on here. So let's check them out in more detail. Let's take a closer look at the body art on these two buggies. Kinwald's car, absolutely classic. Just, one of those designs that we'll always remember. And I absolutely love it. And then this Team Car, the colors on this are so vibrant. And I love the airbrushing on this particular body, the pink pinstriping. I think this might be my favorite, or at least the winner for the most pop of any of my bodies. Now, these bodies have a similar look. They're both swept back. They both have an aggressive look to them. But when you start checking them out closely, you'll notice they're actually significantly different. This is the Mirage body, and this is the Viper. And you'll see that the body becomes wider much faster here on the Viper. And it stays narrow here and then tapers out rapidly on the Mirage. The Mirage has this little scoop here, which is kind of cool. A little bump there. And the window is different. It's bigger on this Mirage body. It's quite a large window, which I kind of like. It seems more realistic to me. This body also flares out here in the rear more than the Team Viper body does, which you see is very minor swell here. And the window is a shorter height here, which I guess has a little bit more aggressive look to it. But those are some of the differences between the Mirage and the Viper. These cars would look a lot more similar if the Team Car had been re-released in black. But let's take a look at more of the substantial differences. And starting up on the front end, you can see that both use the long front arms. They were considered long at the time. But the shocks are a little different. And that is something that they did on the 2014 re-release. These shocks are not what Brian Kinwald would have run. These have threaded shock bodies, and they're bottom loaders on the seals, and they have bleed valves here, or bleed screws. So these were an upgrade for the 2014 kit, and my belief about the 2014 kit was they wanted this car to be for the driver. And, as we look through some of the features of it, we'll continue to see things that were done to improve the drivability of the car and not for originality's sake, which, you might think that's cool or not. But anyway, that was the vibe of the car. Let's take the original Brian Kinwald and then the factory release and just see how good we can make it. So it had, of course, the Worlds Car bell cranks. And that is a difference with the Team Car. The Team Car was still using the original bell cranks from the 1984 Edinger. So that was getting pretty long in the tooth by this point. Still had the wire linkage and all of that. So that was a big change to the Worlds Car. Big improvement with Brian. But both cars had turnbuckles, and they used the same kind of ball cups. However, you'll see that my body post has been moved back to the top of the bell crank here. That was not in the kit. Was not part of the 2014 kit, but I liked it. It was something that was on the original kit, so I moved my post to the top of that bell crank there. So some of the things that are not so obvious are the suspension geometry up front and the steering. So let's take a look at that. The first thing you might notice when you take the front wheels off these cars is the axles. The Team Car has a carbon steel axle that's got a black oxide finish, and it's a short or standard length version. And the Worlds Car has the longer aluminum axles. But this is not the way the original Worlds Car kit was issued. It had aluminum, but it was the short version. So they extended the track, made the track wider on this 2014 re-release. The other thing you'll see is that the Team Car has kind of the old looking style steering arms, kind of angular looking. And the Worlds Car has a more rounded, more modern looking steering arms. But more importantly, the Team Car still has 15-degree caster angle. And the Worlds Car goes to 30 degree. So it's quite steeply laid back. And that changes the steering quite a bit, the geometry and the caster of the wheel, the camber of the wheel, I should say. And the wheel starts leaning over at an angle pretty quickly as you turn. So that's a difference. And one other minor difference is the Team Car comes with a standard steel lock nut, and the Worlds Car comes with plastic locking nuts for the front axles. On the shock towers, the Team Car uses standard fiberglass shock towers. They have the 6 mounting holes, upper and lower. But when we got to the Worlds Car, we got rid of one of those rows, and the material has changed now to more of a fiber material, not carbon fiber, but it is also relieved here in the center. So a little different geometry than the Team Car tower. Before we leave the front end of these cars, I'll just note that these bumpers are aftermarket on both cars and did not come with either kit. Now, another thing to note, on the nose pieces, the Team Car has the straight cut standard nose piece that we come to expect on these cars, but the Worlds Car is shaved, and Brian had shaved some different components, and so the Worlds Car has that kind of a feature, which I really like because the servo can sit flat It doesn't need to be stepped down on the back with a little washer, because the front support can sit flat on the pan, the main pan. So that's kind of nice. And of course, the linkage here to the Worlds Car bell cranks is much more modern looking, with a turnbuckle and all of that. Now we get back to the battery area, and this Worlds Car is the way it came in 2014, and we've got the long strap. Goes all the way back underneath the bulkhead, and it's got the standard retention here. Also note that the Worlds Car has this milled area on the chassis. This isn't necessarily the way Brian's car was. Brian's car was milled around the edges, and that's something we're going to see in the upcoming Kinwald release, which is based on what his car really was, as opposed to this 2014 Worlds Car, which was based on the previous general market release of the Worlds Car, which was not faithful to the exact specifications of Brian's car. So this car will always remain a re-release of the 1994 kit release, and then we'll have Brian's actual copy of his car coming out here as we speak. So anyway, this chassis is really cool though with that milling. Now this car I've already done a little upgrading on, if you tuned into some of our recent episodes on the Team Car. And I went to this Fan RC battery strap, which they call the Worlds Car strap, but it's not as long as the other, and it doesn't go underneath the bulkhead. This is just foam I have here. And I've switched over to some J-Concepts thumb screws here. Otherwise, this would have come with just a standard plastic strap like we've seen on all the other cars. Moving to the rear suspension, we see that the Worlds Car has an updated suspension tower, and it's got a triangular pattern, unlike the round holes that we've always known on the earlier gold pans. And it had 4 hole positions for the upper shocks, so much more adjustability here. However, this is not a direct copy of Kinwald's shock tower. We'll see that coming out on this new re-release of his car. We'll see here, though, on this kit that the shock tower has this V pattern here instead of the hole like the Team Car. It has a round hole and it goes straight across in the bottom. Now, the Team Car did not come with these inner holes for the shocks to mount on the top of the tower. I had to drill those. If you haven't seen that, check out our track time episode for the Team Car, where I show that modification. Of course, the rear shocks follow the same design as the front. They have the bleeder caps and the threaded bodies and all on the Worlds Car 2014. Now, the bulkheads are essentially the same, but they shouldn't have been. The Worlds Car would have had these side mounting or adjustment holes removed. But they didn't do that on the 2014 re-release. We'll see if that's on the new Kinwald design. I'm not sure that it is. And then the Worlds Car came with this carbon fiber transmission brace. This car did not come with that brace. I've already updated it. It came with the square standard plastic white nylon brace. And it was a universal brace. It had holes for the 6-speed transmission as well. So even though that might be correct, I didn't like it, so I switched that out. Now we can see some differences on the rear axles as well. First of all, the Team Car had universal joints, which was correct for the Team Car. And it had the stepped 1/4-inch axles as well. So this is definitely an upgrade from the original gold pans that just had dog bones in here, so it had the universal joints. Notice that it has the old style hub carriers, and the control arms are the same between the Worlds Car and the Team Car. But for the 2014 car, they updated the car to 3/16 straight axles with CVD joints. That was a change from the original Worlds Car kit. And they put these blue backing plates on here that we saw recently on the four-wheel drive release. I don't love this because it does not look period correct to me, but of course neither do the shocks. They're not as obvious since they're not anodized blue. So these are a nice practical update, but not period correct in my opinion for the car. Notice the hub carriers have been updated to the Worlds style. That's because the straight axles need crush tubes in here, and the bearings sit on diameters inside these. It's a little different setup than the original here that had flanged bearings, and that's what held the bearings inside the hub carrier. Here's another difference that was updated on the 2014 Worlds Car, and that is the slipper clutch. On the Team Car, it's the original version slipper clutch, and it just has a single pad in between two discs, and then the spur gear screws onto the side of the hub in there. So simple design, but then when we got the 2014 release, it goes to two pads, one on each side of the spur gear, the octalock, so that that pad is held in there by the octagonal shape, and then it's got these discs on both sides and a big spring, and it takes up some more space here. I don't love the cover that they issued with the 2014 re-release of the Worlds Car. It doesn't look period correct to me. And of course the Team Car has a little bit more vintage looking clear cover. It also turns out that the transmission housings or case are not the same between the Worlds Car re-release and the Team Car. This Worlds Car is upgraded. It has integral bosses molded into the case, whereas the Team Car has separate bosses that you push on. And also, for some reason, the Worlds Car reissue, they just did away with the felt seal that goes in here to keep dirt from getting between the transmission and the motor plate. So that's not even on here. So you can just see down in here that there's nothing there, which isn't exactly right. So I'm going to fix that. I have kind of a vintage looking felt gasket that I'm going to put in there. And so I'll be fixing that. I'll also be fixing the springs because the Worlds Car used green rear springs, not these silver springs. So I have some green springs that I'm going to put on here. And then the front should be black. And these are hard to get. I have them right now on the Team Car. I got to see if I have another set or not. But I'd like to get the Worlds Car set up more looking like the original issue of the kit. And then I do have, I don't know if I'm going to use these or not, I have the short aluminum front axles. So that's something I could switch out, and notice that they come with the plastic nuts. Now, you might think, what's the big deal about that? Well, not only are they lighter, but almost more importantly, they are not going to damage the aluminum, which is really soft. So if you use a metal nut on the aluminum, you could cross-thread it and take the threads off the aluminum. So going with the plastic's the way to go on that. Couple other upgrades. The Worlds Car originally, if you look at the manual for the 1994 issue, it used aluminum screws in the transmission. These screws, the long ones that go in from the side, they're 1 inch. The re-release kit, I guess to save a little money there, just went with steel screws. I have some aluminums here that I purchased from McMaster-Carr, so I'm going to add those to this kit. And then also the rear nuts to hold the wheels on should be aluminum per the original kit. The 2014 re-release comes with steel. Just a couple minor things that I think they thought were not as important as the other upgrades that they made, and everything costs money. So, but these are easily replaced with some aluminum lock nuts. I've already done that to the team car here. The team car also came with steel, as it did up front. One last little note is that the original Worlds Car kit from 1994 showed putting washers between the motor plate and the chassis here to get the fit correct here without bending the chassis. But the re-release doesn't show that, and I don't have them in here though. The team car also doesn't show that in the re-release, but on the team car I put them in because it needed it and things weren't lining up perfectly, but that is something that it showed in the manual back in 1994. I just love these early 1990s RC10 pan cars. They had learned so much from the racing program, and they baked it all into these early 90s vehicles, and they're just awesome. They've got the revised front suspension, the stealth transmissions. They drove like you want these RC10 pan cars to drive. So I am totally jazzed about the idea of the Kinwald Edition RC10 coming out. And if we're lucky, we might get one on the channel. So if you're interested in that, then we'll see you next time.